All right, time for a weekly outlook. Um, Rollover week. So I personally hate this week. Um, Not because of, yeah, we do get a little bit of volatility back, but since I do not back adjust my charts, I trade on the continuous chart, meaning I have these gaps, right? Whenever we roll over, I leave these gaps in. I do this only because historically, this is just what I've done. I've seen more reactions over, when we have big important levels on when we're looking at, the indexes across a year. I I've seen more reactions and pivots, key pivots off of, especially when I'm working with a profile off of the not back adjusted chart, meaning the ones with the gaps. Back adjusted means you close the gap and you bring everything in the past back up a little, right, to sort of get rid of that gap. Um, the only exception is this week, I watch both, right? Until this current contract expires this Friday, I watch both, right? Because on the ESZ now, we don't have a gap, right? ESH, this is ESZ back here. I roll over on this Monday and we have a gap, okay? Um, Puts us at an interesting spot, right? Because if we're just looking at this one, we gap to new highs. Obviously, it's not a real gap, but we're at new all-time highs. Pullbacks, we're going to be pulling back to some key levels up here. Pullbacks into here, we're going to be pulling back into key levels down here. So I watch both, right? I plot both levels and I watch both levels, right? And I keep both charts up. That's just how I work, at least this week. Next week, I get rid of this and rely fully on this. But until this one expires, I will watch both. Meaning, I don't limit long as much as I do typically. Uh, I prefer to just wait for a little bit, maybe pay attention more order flow on the new contract, or just wait for a little bit of confirmation, just price action wise. So that's how I play this week. Key levels I'm watching, we'll discuss them on here. It's going to be 6130. 6130 is like the main pivot, at least Monday. That lines up with this 6060 on ESZ, right? Your afternoon pullback highs, previous day's low, right? Set of signals there, right? But essentially the upper end of this lower distribution from Friday, right? Which also just is 6130. Okay. Um, well, this translated up 60 or 70 points, right? Which was the gap, is 6130. We're below that. I think we go take out some of these lows on Friday and this session back here and go trade down to the support we were talking about last week, down in the 30s, 30 to like 35. That lines up nicely with, I believe that's about 30 points lower currently. This about 30 points lower takes you to, yeah, in the 30s. So 30 points lower takes you down here into the 6100, 6105 ish area, right? Which happens to be your biggest shelf on the new contract. And then Friday's low, right, in the 40s here, lines up with this all-time high. So just have that plotted there just in case we get some kind of reaction there at Friday's low. So a lot of the levels here, or actually all the levels here, line up with this, okay? Even though these are also key pivots on this chart, they also are going to be key pivots on this chart, okay? I've sort of made it plotted out only the very, very important ones that sort of line up with both, just so it makes my life a little easier. Because I prefer working off the levels instead of, solely relying on order flow. Um, so that's where I'm at. So, Friday's low obviously going to be a big one. Friday's low and this all-time high is going to be a big one. Although, right, you do have the support I've been waiting for like the longest time. Feels like the longest time down in these 30s for a trade back, bounce off of 30 and then trade back higher. Um, right, which sits right here. So that'll be like the main focus this week. You start losing this, yeah, there are a couple pivots below us, or a couple levels below us. Not too important. All right, you have 15 here. This point of control, this most recent balance down here. Then 90 is just the excess down here. Balance highs here. Shelf there. These all kind of translate with some of these levels back here, right? And the 73 is this. I believe the 85 is this 15 level translated 70 points higher, which also sits at Friday's high, RTH high. 73, which is about 12, 13 points lower, sits right at this 6,000 mark ish. Okay. So we'll keep both those plotted, or we'll watch both charts. NQ, same story, right? Work the same way on NQ. This 22,100 is essentially Friday's afternoon pullback high and uppermost shelf. Also Thursday's high. Is that Thursday? No, Tuesday, Wednesday's highs, right, or close to, right, this shelf up here. So that's that level. This level 100 points lower is simply Friday's lower distribution, 21,720s, and 21,630s, right, which is this shelf here. This session's axis down here. Shelf there on the composite is going to be the one just a little lower, right up against this all-time high on the NQH. This level below us, 21,800s, will be this one down here, 21,530s, right? About 270 points lower. Should line up nicely, about 270 points lower-ish, close. So no limit longs for me on ESNQ, RTY, YM. I just plot these levels to sort of match the movement towards the key levels on this to this. So it might be a little confusing if you think about it. I think it starts to make sense a little bit, right? Just balance extension up here. And this is from the NQZ balance extension. So got those levels, but main focus is going to be this 22,100. Right. 3-day balance, sort of. Most recently, a little bit of poor structure. No, I don't say poor structure here. A little bit of an some empty space here back down to Friday's lower distribution, right? So I'll probably look for expecting more range within this until we're not. So that I think that's like the first little play I'm gonna be looking for RTH on Monday. RTY and YM, they're at pretty big inflection points, or really approached really nice inflection points on Friday, on both of them actually. But I want to build a position on these, so I don't mind if I'm like 20-30 handles off, or like off the low on RTY, or a couple hundred points off the low on YM. I'm just gonna wait and just give it a little more confirmation before I start trying to looking to build a position long in these, right? And preferably just we need to end the one-time ribbing down on these things, right? And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sessions just down, right? Pretty controlled selling for now. So until that ends, it can be up here, and I don't mind, right? I'd rather wait for that little bit of confirmation before building a pretty big position long back up on these, right? Whether it takes out the high or not, who knows? But yeah. Crude and gold I'm interested in. They also came down they actually had some really decent action last week, right? We're bullish crude back down to start the week and resolve the week, essentially breaking out over the main big resistance we had, right, at 70.4. We played the short, or the longs, and then the short back down. Didn't really play this break on Friday though. But until that breaks, I kind of have to look bullish. Only play I'm looking at least early on in the week is an immediate continuation higher. I don't want it really pulling back to 40. I don't even know if I'm going to tempt it off of 40. I'll wait for more MGI before getting involved. Right? If we can just trade, I was looking to see if 90 was going to bid. I actually got stopped at 80, like 2 ticks away from the low. But I'll re-enter that come tomorrow morning if it starts to look a little better, right? Big pivot, at least most recent session upper distribution here starts what 71 ones. So best case scenario, kind of wait for us to flip this and start building value back with at least within Friday's upper distribution before getting along towards this uppermost end of the profile, right? Pretty big range, but I'm going to be scaling out into here. Below 40, I'm not going to be bid at 40, but you know, if it somehow breaks below 40, it can stay below there. Yeah, it should be a swift move back down towards 79.50, right? A nice 100 tick move, but like further weakness can potentially take you down to 68.30. I don't think it will, but yeah, we'll probably be another daily outlook when we get more MGI up here. If we are not gonna head higher, right? If we're gonna head lower, I'll just look for the trade or the weakness off of 40. Gold. I like, oh shit, it already made the move to 80. Are you kidding me? That fast? I was talking in the weekly outlook I did in voice chat this morning. Level to watch, at least near term, was 68s, right? This last couple letter period highs here. Quite the sell off on gold. Okay. Smacked off of this point of control up here as expected. Didn't execute it properly. But yeah, smacked down, traded back into this range, this most recent balance area. I was expecting this uppermost end to hold. It didn't. So it traded down to here within it, which is not the greatest look, right? You get the break away from value and then trade back into it. Yeah, we're getting the bid off the point of control, but I to be bullish, I need to be outside of it, right? So at least 80s, preferably these 90s, right? Before getting long back up, probably take out this high, make new all-time highs. But so I really don't want to get involved like in a huge position between this like 2660 to 2680. Yes, in the near term, we can watch this lowermost distribution from Friday to sort of make a trade back up to these extremes or back down to these extremes, which was sort of what I was looking for. I wasn't home during this time, so I didn't really get a bid off. I would have loved to. Back towards 80, which would have been the first target, right? This point of control from Friday. But big level, 90, 2660, right? 58. Well, 2680 first and then 2660. So yeah, preferably before getting into a big swing position, I want to wait for some more MGI to see what we do. Always develop value outside or within this range, preferably outside. I'd like to see some action like we did last week. So interested to see what this transpires into at least Monday open. But yeah, so not really bullish gold, but prefer the move to the upside over the 80s and over the 90s. Crude bullish, right? If we can establish some value or stay above 70.4. Indexes, I just gotta take it day by day. I will stay bullish, tech, right, until it proves me wrong. Right, might be a little slow to start the week. You know, in terms of like breadth, there's really not much wrong with it. Really just expecting maybe like a couple more days of downside, at least from the greater overall market. Right, if you look at the 200-day, kind of at these most recent pivot lows, at least that we've seen this year, right? We really don't trade back below this. This was your little Japan fiasco that we had first session. Traded lower, but or was it back here? Yeah. But anyway, this has been like our key pivot, right? The 50 levels down here, we're well above it. We've been up here all year. You know, if it starts trailing lower, it might become a little bit of an issue. But when we do trade up here, we tend to stay up here for a little bit, right? Not an extreme reading, but pretty darn bullish if we can bounce off there and trade a little higher. The shorter term moving averages are doing something a little different. The 50-day actually broke its most recent like little trend it had going not too long ago. So it's a little weak now, but nonetheless coming down to sort of their midpoint, actually below 50. I don't really like watching this one. I prefer the watching the 200 and then the 20 or the 5. Right, this one will give you more inflection points. Not yet at this reading below 10, right, which is sort of where we get the extreme reading. Most recent pivot lows have come off of this, right? We're approaching that or close to, very, very close to. So this one's telling us, maybe we get another couple sessions of potential downside. These times like these, you get like prolonged periods of downside, but sometimes pretty darn quick, right? When you trade back into these lows, you only really spend like a week or two down below this. So maybe we get another week of weakness. Who knows? In the 5-day kind of trading back down to the low, almost back below 10. So, I'm not gonna build a long on YM or RTY or ES just because of that. But it is in the back of my mind of of wanting to get long these names that have come down all of last week, really a week and a half. But like I said, we need to see the one time framing down on the daily end, right? Develop some kind of balance or get over the last session's high and keep going, right? So yeah, a lot of things undecided in my outlook as of now, but I think we get more MGI and it starts to clear up a bit, right? So right now I'll leave ESNQ, CL, and GC up. RTYYM, I'm just waiting for more MGI. So willing to wait for that. Equity wise, I'm really not looking for anything new. Already built the positions I wanted. Microsoft longs, right, back from early October. ASML, right, down in the 660s, 70s, and even 90s. We got those longs still going. AEHR really not going anywhere. I'm still long AEHR. It's just not going anywhere. Don't know if it does too well, but a little more speculative and just specifically the chart. And then DXC is sort of a position I started for next year, right, down into this zone. Okay. This one I'm risking like 10 to 12% back down to like here, right, building a position here. I started the position on Wednesday, willing to average down into this range, and then risk about 12% on the entire, or 12% from my average, which will likely end up in the like 20 flat or 20 and a half. Okay, so we'll see how that does. Really, those are the only couple things that I'm watching near term, in the short term. So yeah, keep you guys updated in the channel there. But yeah, it's pretty slow on the equity side for now. But anyway, hope this helped and hope you guys have a wonderful week of trading.